very good Thursday to everyone who is joining us. I know many of you are joining us from across the region, but I see many names from much further afield. So welcome to today's THF Dialogue. This special edition of the HIT Foundation Dialogue is jointly brought to you by the HIT Foundation and the Singapore Education Consulting Group. This, we hope, will be part of a much larger series of partnerships between SECG and the HIT Foundation. The Singapore Education Consultancy Group is a Singapore-based education consulting company comprising a group of highly experienced education policymakers, practitioners, and trainers who between them cover the whole spectrum from early childhood education, primary, secondary, tertiary, and TVET. All of them have international consulting experience. In particular, they have worked in Asia and the Middle East in education reform, teacher preparation, and professional development. I also believe many of you are familiar with the HIT Foundation, but let me quickly introduce who we are. The HIT Foundation is a modest philanthropic foundation based in Singapore. Despite our location being in Singapore, we are committed to helping improve both healthcare and education outcomes across developing Southeast Asia. To achieve our ends, we work in a number of spaces, including in complementary medicine, in the professional development of educators, and the training of school and higher education leaders. We also produce a number of open access education learning resources that are freely downloadable on our website. We also have those resources translated into a number of regional languages, so do take a look. But ladies and gentlemen, today we are part of the HIT Foundation Dialogue. This is a monthly dialogue session that provides an opportunity for us to unpack some of the most pressing issues that we observe right now. It's an opportunity for us and our partners to invite leading thought leaders to share about their perspectives on a pressing issue in education, healthcare, or any other relevant field. And today's topic couldn't be any more timely. Getting AI right in education. Artificial intelligence, particularly generative artificial intelligence, has been causing waves across society, especially since ChaptGPT became accessible to all. We've all been wondering, what would AI in education look like? What would it mean? I think many of us in this room have played around with artificial intelligence, particularly generative artificial intelligence, to try to see if it can help us do some of our work. I know I have. I've tried to give off a lot of my menial and routinized work to artificial intelligence. But what would this mean in the education space? What does it mean for teachers, for students, for school leaders, and for policymakers? So today, we're very privileged that with the support of the Singapore Education Consultant Group, we're able to put together this very exciting webinar series, Getting AI Right in Education. And now, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the moderator for today's session and principal consultant from Singapore Education Consulting Group, Dr. Varaprasad. Dr. Prasad, it's over to you.
Thank you, Vignesh, for a very kind introduction. And thank you also for the collaboration that we are having this afternoon. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, wherever you are in Asia and beyond. Welcome to today's webinar on getting artificial intelligence right in education. Brought to you, of course, by the HIT Foundation and the Singapore Education Consulting Group, or SECG for short, in the dialogue series of the HIT Foundation. What, you might be asking, not another seminar on AI and education? Yes, there has been a lot that has been written and spoken on various media and platforms on the impact of AI on education. And some of it is pretty scary, not very pretty, I might add. Some of it is optimistic. And the truth is somewhere obviously in between, depending on your position and the perspective that you're looking from. So what we are trying to do today is to find the truth and how to get it right in education. We cannot ignore AI. We cannot ban AI. But how much can we incorporate AI into our pedagogy and our assessment? How can we allow its use in education, but at the same time ensure that the voice that we are hearing is the student's voice and not that of ChaptGPT? So we have gathered together for you three practitioners, all users of AI in different ways. And we have purposely brought in the younger generation, the under 40s, to speak to us. Dr. Grandee Lee is a lecturer at the School of Science and Technology at the Singapore University of Social Sciences. He is a researcher and user of large language models, which are the heart of AI applications like ChaptGPT or Copilot. Dr. Agus is a lecturer in the informatics department at the Institut Teknologi 10th November, Indonesia in Surabaya, East Java. His interests are in deep learning, data science, and cloud computing. Rudy Hakeem is a former teacher and currently a tech entrepreneur in the AI space with a service to help students learn more effectively with AI helping them. And all of them come from different parts of the AI landscape. Now, the term AI, artificial intelligence, is itself not new. Some of you, the older generation, might remember IBM's Deep Blue computer playing chess with world champions. After some early losses, it was able to learn fast enough to beat Garry Kasparov, the world champion in chess, in 1997. And that was seen as a turning point in the development of machine learning and learning systems. But Deep Blue in 1997 was a monster computer, taking up a whole room full. Today, of course, computers are not only much faster and smaller, they have access to all the world's knowledge on the internet. And today, the AI algorithms are much more sophisticated and faster. So AI, together with machine learning capabilities unheard of before, is gearing up to transform the way that we work in healthcare, in transportation, all kinds of services, and making well-educated people redundant. What kind of education system is needed to cope with what is to come? What we are seeing today is just the tip of the AI revolution that will hit us with increasing frequency. What are some of the ethical issues that we will need to address? So for the next hour and a half, let's have a lively discussion on how to make it right with AI in education. And we have already received quite a large number of questions, and thank you for that. Please keep your questions coming in. Post your questions on the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will explore this subject that is close to all our hearts. So without further ado, I shall invite Dr. Grandee Lee to make his opening remarks for about 20 minutes. Grandee, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much for the introduction. So let me share my slide. Well, today, my topic will be about how to coexist with ChaptGPT in assessment, AI collaborative assessment design. So maybe let me skip the background information about how important is assessment integrity in tertiary education, how a reliable assessment is the backbone of our educational system in general. And to go a little bit further, it is also about credibility and trust, almost the foundation of our society. So in this sense, if you allow me to exaggerate a little bit, right, then our society is under attack. Because in short, large language models like ChaptGPT are very good for most types of assessment. A direct copy and paste answer would usually be sufficient to pass that assessment, but not all. So there lies some margin where we can operate. So I'm still quite optimistic in that sense. There are, of course, many ways to counter this situation, such as being more adaptive, other approaches like a learning perspective, or even a more process-driven perspective. Yes, all these are there are many directions. So in this short kind of presentation, I would like to share some of my beliefs, experiences to move towards a more AI collaborative assessment design. So it's about designing the task. So first, of course, very humbled and honored to be here. So let me start. What is AI collaborative assessment? Today, we are mostly in this, darker gray area, whereby we can classify the assessment in two categories, whether it is proctored or not proctored. So this EQP acronym is my school SUSS acronym for the final exam. That is, you have to take the exam in a examination hall. TMA and ECA, they are the take-home assessment. So before large language models became a problem, proctoring is mainly to counter human-human collusion, right, between human beings. But now, most exams start to shift away from this non-proctored assessment, like take-home projects, and assign higher weightage or higher percentage to final exams. Because increasingly, we find the need to check collusion with machines. Well, this means exactly that our assessment is not AI collaborative in nature. The fact that we need to isolate AI involvement. In the future, I'm not so sure whether it makes sense to isolate them, or will it be detrimental to the authenticity of the assessment, since in the workplace, people are collaborating with machines anyway. So I believe that we all want to move towards this direction to the left, or at least have the option to operate in this area. But can we do that? And that's the big question. Can we be sure that something has to be done by the student and not AI? It will, of course, be very arrogant to say, yes, I have a way to, ChaptGPT proof the question. Yeah, I don't have that. But my current position is yes and no. So let me explain why. First, let's establish some facts and their implications, so that you can verify that I'm not claiming too much. Large language models, since it's based on neural network, it is a universal approximator. I mean, the technical definition is that for a arbitrary complex task, right, you can achieve an arbitrary accuracy. But this is based on two conditions. First, that this task need to be clearly defined. So only when the task is clearly defined, right, it can be solved. And the second condition is that there is sufficient data. So there's something that we can kind of exploit here. So let's reframe this in terms of what does it mean to assessment, right? From the perspective of the task need to be clearly defined, which means once the question can be articulated by the student, they should be able to find the answer. So which means the test is actually before the question, right? Before student is able to articulate the question. So it's kind of similar to a so-called the process perspective, that students need to actively arrive at asking the right question, right? 50% of the problem is solved by asking the right question. So that's where that's the human part. Once they have the question, then the rest, they should be able to do given the current technology and the current information. So the process of figuring out the question, I believe should be the direction in the question design. And the second part, right, when sufficient relevant data is given, so regarding this Q&A, which is our current form of how we present the questions, the assessment, it is the simplest and the most abundant data set. That has many implications. And the one that I want to stress is that it means most of the higher order questions that we ask, that we think they are higher order, they are actually a regurgitation of the past experience, which means they are recall. Even though if we use some higher order Bloom verbs like analyze or evaluate, it is actually recalling a past analysis and evaluation from the perspective of large language models. So to ask a real analysis or evaluation question, we have to stay outside of the existing data set. So maybe let me illustrate this point using a simple MCQ. So what is a diagram language model? Because I'm a NLP researcher and I also teach NLP. So this is one of the questions. I have no doubt that large language models can answer this question correctly. In fact, the correct answer is C. And actually, all these options, they are generated by ChaptGPT. So what was the wrong way to ask? Is this, it seems to be a higher order question when we ask how to implement. But given the existing knowledge base, this is actually a recall question to large language models. So I guess the first change is the change in our perspective in kind of categorizing what is a lower level question and what is a higher order question, taking into consideration of the existing knowledge base that is available to large language models. So what could be a way to ask this that is higher order? I mean, this is one of the ways. Imagine the following sentences are your entire corpus. Then complete the diagram transition diagram. If you ask this question to ChaptGPT and also providing all this as either images in whatever way possible, actually ChaptGPT couldn't get it right. The correct answer is B, because number 3 needs to be my name is Grandee, so not number 5. Your number 5 here is not. And of course, this is you may take this as a one-off event, but let me show you something else. So let's just hold that thought for a moment. Okay, how about this question? Imagine without the other usage of queen in the training corpus, where will the embedding of queen be? Assuming each grid is 1 unit long. Choose the correct option. Now this is again bringing the so-called in-domain training data, which if we ask the question in plain form, like, oh, what's the effect of having the other usage of certain word in the training corpus, which again, no doubt ChaptGPT can answer perfectly. We bring that question, change the form to make it outside of the existing most frequent training data. And again, ChaptGPT had problem answering that. So let's go back to the first. So what's wrong with this? Well, 2 things. First, we give the question straight away, which referring to the kind of the 2 principles, we shouldn't give the question. And second, we ask actually a recall question. So if you ask me what's the kind of the foolproof way, I don't have. In fact, I will also say that given the 2 previous examples, with sufficient data, large language models can still solve them. Yes. So what I wish to present is more of a economic argument. That first, we must acknowledge that there is a huge unexplored problem space because we can really ask in very creative ways and be very abstract. And this space kind of put large language models in a very unfamiliar terrain. And that requires the student's effort to bring that question back into the familiar domain. So that bringing back process is where we assess the student, which is in fact asking the right questions to dissect, to deconstruct the question, and then put it in a word that ChaptGPT or in fact even the internet can bring you the answer. So the economics part come into play is that it's just not worthwhile to create data set for each different type of this creative questions. And I believe that for off-the-shelf large language models, it's also not profitable to pursue such space. So this is where the yes and no come in. I mean, yes, we can make the question design somewhat ChaptGPT proof. That I still have hope that just at the question level, we can still have a very high integrity assessment, but no as in there's no such thing as a ChaptGPT proof question, because given sufficient question and answer pairs, this source and target one-to-one relationship can always be established. So although there's a thank you here, but I do have one more slide. Do I have time? Okay, if
Go
just
ahead.
so also regarding the response length, another point I want to bring forth is that with ChaptGPT, and if we are going ahead with this AI collaborative approach, this AI collaborative assessment design, the response length is not something that we should make it longer. In fact, we should make it shorter. For ChaptGPT, the marginal cost of producing 1,000 words versus 1 word is near zero. For any given question, you can ask them to choose the correct options, which produce a single letter, or you can ask them to describe in words the various steps of implementation of it, or etc., which can be quite lengthy. So which means for us as the marker of the assessment, getting a long response actually causes more burden. So my current belief is we should actually just stick with short response, or better MCQ, and it's straight away auto-gradable. So instead of going for the let them write more, we should let them write less, but then increase the depth of the question design to include more abstraction and more interactivity. So that will be a short sharing of my experience and take on how to coexist with AI, with large language models, to ensure that the assessment is authentic and there is integrity in the assessment. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Grandee. I think you have described quite an abstract model of assessment that not many people would have been familiar with, and that's a good thing because it would now make them consider from an AI standpoint what they are assessing and how they are doing their assessment. But a very quick question to you would be, before I go on to the next speaker, would be, what about having students design the questions themselves that they would ask ChaptGPT, for example?
You mean the assessment is to let the student design the prompt?
Yes.
So let them submit the prompt.
Yes.
but then even the prompt can be generated.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Even the prompt can be generated. But then if it was done in a proctored environment?
Oh, if it's proper environment, they have no concern whatsoever, I guess. Or proper environment, but with access to AI, with access to large language models.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In other words, we are designing their skills in the use of large language models.
Right, that would be a orthogonal skills that it's always good to have. Right, sure. So in a envisioned environment, let them come up with authentic prompt to ChaptGPT. So we assess their skills of using ChaptGPT. That would be very good, right?
And has there been any research done with questions done with AI and done without AI, and to say which has better quality output?
In terms of the learning outcome,
In terms of the learning outcome, yes.
and what's the two condition again? One with student using
Let's
AI.
say you take a question and you allow them to use ChatGPT, and then in another control group, you don't let them use ChatGPT.
Certainly, I can speak of my own experience.
Mm.
I mean, with the student that I observed, certainly if they don't use ChaptGPT, there's more, I mean, their final exam will correlate more with their midterm. But if they use ChaptGPT during their midterm, wow. So I guess it's better not to use. I mean, I'm speaking from a programming perspective. I'm also teach programming. So if you give, say, ChatGPT a screenshot of the unified modeling language and then the question specification, ChatGPT can give the whole coding almost 100% correct.
Okay, so you're
I'm reading there.
you're coming from a
code.
skills perspective mostly.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, there are some questions in the Q&A and chat box. We'll come to that later. Meanwhile, let me introduce you to Dr. Agus, who is from Surabaya, Indonesia, and it will be very interesting to know how AI is being used in the region.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Prasad, for the chance and the Head Foundation. And today I will give the opening remark, continuing with Dr. Grandee Lee, about getting AI right in education. I will try to give different perspective, not in LLM. So, well, when we talk about AI in the last 3, 4, 5 years, we have a lot of rumors or issues. So, and there is a term called AI anxiety when we are fear that AI will remove human in the loop. So when there is a business process, and you are inside of the business process, sometime in the near future you will be replaced with AI. Why we will be replaced with AI? Because AI becomes smarter than people in certain tasks. And another rumor say that AI can be can be used as labor replacing tools. So instead of hire another human, then we can hire new AI for specific tasks, etc. In the other side, actually, the government sometimes, well, it depends. It's really depends on the person, etc. The government or the Congress, in this case, doesn't understand really the current situation. That's the first case. The second case is that, well, they do understand, but as you can see in the regulation, the law, it could within the rise of the update of AI, it's not only in years, but sometime in several months, there is a new trend, and we don't know what happened in the next 6 months, etc. So it could AI trend, well, the regulation couldn't adapt so agile, just like the development of AI. And that's the challenge. And let us see what's the company what's the company orientation for AI. Actually, based on the AI Index report 2024 from Stanford University, like half of the AI innovation comes from the company, not comes from the research area like research institution, etc. Why? The main reason, or one of the main reason, is to increase profits. So, well, it's normal. The nature perspective of company is increasing the profit, minimizing the cost, and opening new markets. So, AI in this case start to enable a company to increase productivity and working with fewer people, and as well as opening new market. Like, for example, previously when we have a customer service working in Singapore using English, it's a little bit difficult if they have to adapt with Indonesian language. But right now, we can even have an AI to generate the language you type or you speak in English and generate it in Indonesian language or in Malay or in other languages. So that's a new change. So let me continue to put the global context according to the AI Index Report 2024. Despite the AI anxiety, as Dr. Prasad said earlier, there are some people that fear with the development of AI. Another are how to say gain more interest and to follow up the new AI technology, etc. Take an example with ChaptGPT that previously we discussed. In the context of education, there was a survey conducted in US and in European Union. Actually, 88% of teachers say that they have a positive impact given the ChaptGPT as their assistant, as their helping tools, while 79% of students say that ChaptGPT has had a positive impact. What does it mean? It means that yes, the fear of AI exists. People who fear of AI exists, but the number of AI adoption in education and the acceptance level is quite high, which is like 79% or 88%. So it means that it has a positive impact and positive reaction. So then does it a good thing to accept ChaptGPT? It depends. So still in the same report, there is an example question. Well, in the context, this is not a scientific question when you have absolute answer. This is like the social question. If you had to choose between a good democracy and strong economy, which would you say is more important? Suppose you give this equation to your student. With a large language model, the result is most of the answer give a good democracy over strong economy. But if we move on to the human participants, it really depends on the geographical aspect or culture aspect. In the United States, yes, good democracy is more important than strong economy, but the portion is larger than the LLM. And when we see Russia, Turkey, and Indonesia, it's quite different. So what does it mean? It means when we use AI in education, we really depend on the responsible AI aspect. For example, this question relates to the fairness. And the fairness, it depends on the culture base. So see, in the same question, ask two different kind of person, give different kind of answer. It's good and bad thing. The good thing, the bad thing is just like what kind of news we have so far. Maybe we got from only from one side, while the other side we don't know, maybe that's the real truth or etc. It's just it's the perspective of large language model according to the trained data. So where comes the data, that becomes a new truth perspective. Therefore, in this case, I would like to highlight that AI and education, how we give a right direction, it depends on the country. Let me take an example of Indonesia. Maybe it's different from Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and other countries. So we start with the subject of the subject that will be affected a lot with AI. Well, all AI users mostly will need internet connection. So in Indonesia, there is roughly like 80% of the population have internet connection, which like 74% is from Gen Y, Gen Z, and post Gen Z. So the age range between 6 years old to like 37, 38, it depends on standard, 38 years old. Let us focus on that. What the opportunity, what kind of ethic rules applied in Indonesia so far? So in Indonesia, in terms of AI, Indonesia have a national strategy of artificial intelligence up to 2045. But the question is, it's defined in 2020 when the ChaptGPT is not exist yet. Well, it exists, but it's not hype yet. So as you can see, in terms of opportunities, ethics and rules, it has to be updated. The opportunities, there are several opportunities. But when I saw, according to my experience, when I asked my college, when I asked to give a small survey to the senior high school teachers, the main problem actually it's not the chance to learn AI or to use AI, but the lack of resources and the limited awareness. The lack of resources over here, it means that the infrastructure, etc. It's fine for the urban area, capital city, etc. But when we move on, since if your country have dispersed area, large area like Indonesia, it's quite difficult to have the same infrastructure level. So that's the first problem. The second problem is the the awareness. The awareness about the privacy data, the awareness about the importance of technology learning, update, AI, etc. While for the ethics and rules, let's move on. The ethics and rules, yes, in Indonesia, they have these laws, but it's still soft regulation and no specific regulation targeting AI technology. And currently, AI is not the subject of the law, so we have to pay attention for that. So, according to this condition, what can I suggest for the regional area, maybe similar to what's happening in Indonesia? There are my 2 cents opinions. There are several suggestions for a student. For example, please recheck your AI response. Please recheck your ChaptGPT response, whether it gives a correct answer or not. Whether the correct answer standard is according to Indonesian standard or maybe in US standard, it's different. And prepare for a new career prospect. As you can see, there are a lot of opportunities. Even the artists, there's a prompt engineering artist or something like this. And keep learning, keep hungry to explore. And for educators, I saw that a lot of question comes from educators. Consider to use analytical thinking question during the exam. Well, for me personally, because I'm lecturer also, I have a lot of paper exam for the basic or theoretical foundation understanding or for theoretical foundation assignment. But I start to move on more, emphasize the student to use their critical thinking. And instead of blocking ChaptGPT, try to engage with AI in class. So you can see what's the benefits, what's the drawback, etc. As for a researcher and or expert, if you have experience like 20 years in your expertise, keep updated with the trends. If possible, take advantage of multidisciplinary approach. My research background actually comes from a lot of multidisciplinary approach, because we applied like data science, applied data science, and AI can be used and still have a lot of potential for your expertise level field in maybe in non-computer or non-IT aspect. And for government, try to empower academia government collaboration, update the specific regulation, and safe responsible adoption of AI. I will give an example of what we did in ITS with the East Java government collaborated with UNICEF. We have a program called Digital Skill Program, which minimize the technology gap between rural area and urban area, especially for senior high school. I think it may be interested. It may be good to be applied for the AI adoption also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agus. In a large country like Indonesia, which has a rural urban divide, as well as a generational divide, I can see that the digital generation, the younger generation, would be so far ahead in their knowledge and the use of AI than even some of their teachers or principal in school. How would one cope with this dysfunction where the teachers are really not ready to accept AI or to use AI? How do we make them come up to par, at least with their students?
Okay. Yes, that's a good question, and that's what we are still trying to do since last year and this year. Well, it depends. Normally, in our case, we have a collaboration with the education office of East Java, and we invite the teacher. We give them lecturer. We give them training session. So after we give the training session for how to use not only AI actually, but a lot of technology, especially for the digital literacy, because with digital literacy, they open a lot of new things more proper, for example. That's what we do to minimize the gap between teacher and student understanding about AI.
So teacher development, teacher professional upgrading, faculty development is going to take a bigger and bigger role, and we have to invest more resources into this area. We cannot assume that teachers are going to do it on their own.
Yes.
So thank you very much. I will now invite Rudy to do his presentation, and then we can come back to an all-in discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad. I hope everybody can see me. I would like to first apologize for my hoarse voice. I think I woke up with somebody else's voice, sore throat. So I'm just going to try to be as clear as I can. Again, thank you, Dr. Prasad, SECG, and HEAD Foundation, as well as all the other speakers for joining with me in this discussion. My name is Rudy, and I'm the founder of Akademi. And what we do is we help integrate AI into school curriculums, institutions, and other organizations. But from the very beginning, I consider myself as a teacher first. So before this venture, I taught in Singapore in different primary schools and secondary schools. And the experience that has been gained in the classroom is really important when we talk about how students and teachers actually interact with AI. Because the relationship between a teacher and a student is also sometimes with my other colleagues, they feel that they have a threat between AI and them when it comes to students. So I like to sort of take you through the journey of what how these two perspectives can combine and make AI something useful in the teaching and learning sphere. And the very first way I like to do this is to show you a question that is often asked by teachers, and I teach the English language in the classroom. Students often ask things like, teacher, how do I start? Right? Although simple in nature, this question is quite complex because it dives into many different criteria. Am I trying to figure out, or what I'm trying to figure out as a teacher is, do you understand the question, which is a question on question analysis? Are you struggling with ideas, which is about generating ideas? Do you know how to express yourself, which tends to be about vocabulary and phrasing? Or is it about confidence and motivation to attempt the activity or the question itself? And the complexity in this question and how we dive into AI is important to understand. So when us as teachers and we want to train an AI assistant for teachers, whether it's for teachers or for schools or for students, we need to understand this relationship. There are many, many challenges here, but I'm going to speak on two main challenges that I find most of my colleagues have been asking about. These challenges are the technical challenges and the sort of educational and institutional challenge that AI will bring. So the very first technical challenge is the complexity of language itself. When our users or when we speak to schools in different territories, many of them are concerned about how the English language is spoken in different territories, the different dialects, the different nuances, idioms, and even slangs that different students will be using in different areas. So when using AI as an assistant, as a teacher, I think teachers must also understand that ChaptGPT, for example, let's say the teacher's using ChaptGPT. It's an American-based company that is mostly localized, although their data set is huge. And the localization within a small territory can be more specialized. So teachers, when you are using ChaptGPT, for example, to develop resources for yourself or for your students, it is important for you to understand that when the students answer your questions, it's going to be much more localized. And for AI teachers or AI, what we call tutoring companions, right? If you're developing a tutoring companion, this is a very difficult thing to, or challenge to customize each AI companion according to the territory or culture. And this is similar to also a contextual understanding when it comes to designing syllabus or curriculum with the help of AI. Now, I know many of my teachers, or many of the teachers that I know, are using AI to develop their unit material or class activity worksheets. Most of them need help in prompt engineering, say for example. So when looking at prompt engineering and to develop a unit material, we must first understand who our audience is in terms of their cultural and educational background. Now, we may understand that they are in our school, but very simple ideas like someone never been, or I have this example. There was a worksheet once on writing about an experience in Chinatown. Right? And the problem is one of my students has never been to Chinatown. Right? So more guidance is needed there. And when the student uses an AI platform, the way that the student uses the AI platform is to understand what Chinatown is like, or what are the sights and sounds that he or she can write about in Chinatown, because he or she has never been there. So when developing an AI assistant, be it for teachers to develop unit material or for students' use, we must be very sure about the needs of the students beyond just academic grading, assessment, or factual content. And this can be very different for different subjects. Like my examples for the English language, but subjects like geography, history, computer science, and many others have varying needs that are crucial to understand. So I'm just going to give you an example of how this might look like in practice. So say, for example, the student is using a platform like Akademi or ChaptGPT or whatever platform. The student gets feedback or guidance via AI. But what if the student doesn't understand, right? And goes, I still don't understand. And he or she types in, I still don't understand. The key consideration here is, what will the next AI response be? And what is the context of the activity? And the overall effective critical thinking framework of that particular unit subject in question before the AI response is given. So I say this because as you design lessons in the classroom using AI, using ChaptGPT, do pay in mind that, do understand that when you design lessons and you let your students use AI, you have to also think about different scenarios where students put key in things like, I still don't understand, or whether the language, complexity language of the AI response is not accurate to your classroom sort of reading level. So as teachers, do be aware of designing lessons with this in mind. Maybe a solution can be you providing certain prompts to your students, right, to help them in their journey of using AI. Because I think in our experience in schools and students, although we see AI as the ultimate solution, where students can find all the answers they need, there is still quite a skill gap between students in the age of 10 to 17 compared to students in the university level, where they are able to prompt engineer or use AI effectively for their education. But for the younger audience, using AI in the classroom requires a little bit more hand-holding. So let's move on to a little bigger, more macro view when it comes to educational challenges. Now, in our conversations with schools and organizations, the first worry they have is, how do I integrate our curriculum with AI, right? And how do I decide the standards or the learning outcomes set by the particular institution? And do my teachers need to redesign the entire lesson plan if we are to integrate AI into our curriculum or into our pedagogy, right? And this challenge is really important because there are some lessons or activities, more so in the primary school sphere, for example, that are more recall questions, just like how Dr. Grandee Lee was explaining just now. It was more recall questions. And recall questions may not be very useful to use AI in recall questions, because recall questions require factual answers, which students can get answers straight from ChaptGPT, unless, of course, the school organization has their own language or trains their own language assistant or more AI model. So for example, like Akademi, where you can handle that. But what it can help with is idea generation or the thinking process. So the curriculum design or the syllabus design not just be fully integrated into AI without first figuring out the learning outcomes and the nuances between different subjects and even units in the subject itself. And the other part of this is, of course, the people who are using this, the teachers, stakeholders, right? The teachers, students, and adoption of AI itself. Now, 2 years ago, when I first talked about AI to a lot of my teacher colleagues, for example, who are still in schools, they were quite skeptical. Skeptical because I think there is still a lack of understanding of what AI is and what AI can do. Even now in 2023, when we talk about AI, the first thing we think about is ChaptGPT, right? It's an answer text-based question and answer platform, but it has gone beyond that, right? And I think if we train teachers to use AI effectively, be it in their worksheet design, in their curriculum design, or the interaction that they can have with their students in the classroom, it will greatly benefit both teachers and students. So one example is this. In school, there is a letter writing exercise. I think we're all familiar with letter writing in the English class. Right? Letter writing used to be a very straightforward activity. The teacher would give a question prompt and the student would write the letter. And the teacher would just tell the students, oh, you have to pay attention to things like the purpose, the audience, and the context of your letter. And the student writes the letter, and I, as a teacher, would mark and grade the student's work. But with AI, the entire lesson can be very different. What teachers can do with proper training and proper use of the tools that are available right now is for teachers to be able to design an AI assistant for them that can reply the student's letter, so they can design an assistant that mimics the audience that the students are writing to, and have a conversation with the AI assistant within the classroom itself. And this is an interactive classroom that students enjoy because they can see the benefits of learning. They can see the outcome in the real world perspective of how my letter is replied and the interaction. And the interactivity really benefits their learning because they understand what it means to use the theoretical framework that they see in their notes and why their exam or their essays are graded a certain way. So with proper training, in mind and the proper tools that are given to teachers, I think AI is going to be very beneficial to education in the classroom or student sort of interaction in teaching and learning. So education challenges is, how does AI fit into the traditional learning system? I think for me personally, after speaking to many different schools, organizations across different countries, it is not as different or we do not have to overhaul the entire syllabus curriculum system to integrate AI. And so the other thing I want to mention here is that we should also be aware that AI is now being developed at a very fast pace. And what we see now for the general use, which is ChaptGPT 3.5, which is available to people in the general sphere, is very far from the capabilities of ChaptGPT 4, and will be very far from the capabilities of ChaptGPT 5, say, for example, or any other engine that's developed by different companies. And looking forward, I do see AI being able to have conversations with students, just like we are right now, animated, and to be able to teach things like body language, speech, and communication, and to do a lot more than what we think it can do at this point. So it's very, very important. But I think that schools and teachers come on board right now to learn more about what AI is, the different tools available beyond just ChaptGPT, and how to actually craft or curate a lesson or an activity that can be very beneficial to both students and teachers in the classroom itself. I don't want to go too long about this, but I'm just going to wrap up by talking about future challenges and the way forward, I feel. So there is a bias in AI, and that is one of the more difficult things when it comes to assessment. If I can just add on to Dr. Grandee Lee's presentation just now, the training data set that we use to do assessment using AI can be very difficult, because not only it requires a large data set, but where the data set comes from and which student ability level that data set comes from plays a huge part before it can be embedded into a system that can really assess students' learning. Beyond the bias in AI, I also believe that my worry is that the accessibility to AI may only reach certain students or certain schools, just like how Dr. Agus Budi was mentioning just now. And so I do hope that policymakers or schools understand that to reduce the gap between the schools or the institutions with more better financing or infrastructure, to be able to provide the same towards other territories or other areas within the country or across the region, because the gap between students who have access to AI and the gap between students who don't have access to AI, in my experience and in our research, is going to be significantly very far in terms of when they go into assessment. There is also the need for policies and regulations, things like privacy, things like AI safety, when it comes to using ChaptGPT, right? Especially the nuances that are difficult, just like in my first few slides, where what we find is that if we have a school from, for example, Indonesia, and we have a school from Singapore, when we work with these schools, the worry about privacy or safety is that the curse words or swear words and negative words can be very different between the two territories. So to be able to filter and moderate has to be based on sort of local understanding. And I hope that policies and standards are set not just by policymakers, but to invite teachers, right, to help guide the policies, because I think teachers have first-hand experience with how the students interact with AI and or how they interact with among each other and the language that they use. So I'm sorry, I think I'm gone beyond my time. So thank you very much again for everybody involved. You can email me if you would like to ask me any questions that you want.
Thank you, Rudy. And there are a lot of questions in the Q&A box, and I invite the panelists to take a look at the questions, and feel free to type in your own responses to the questions that are relevant to you. Don't feel that someone else has to do it. If you have a view, please go ahead and do it. Thank you to all the three panelists. You know, there's a lot of questions about integrity and ethics. How do we know, for example, the student has used ChaptGPT or not used ChaptGPT? Is it their original work? Is it not their original work? Many teachers in the audience worry about ethics and making sure that it is the student's own voice and the student's own thinking. This is quite a difficult question to answer, because when they go to work in the workplace, AI is going to be commonly used. They are not going to be devoid of AI. They are going to be using AI all the time. So therefore, we have to find a way to use AI within the education system that doesn't compromise the integrity of the learning and the learning outcome and the measurement of the learning outcome. But that, at the same time, we should not make the mistake of not changing the learning outcome. The learning outcomes obviously cannot remain as they are. With AI, obviously, we shouldn't be measuring content as much as we are doing now, because content has become a commodity per se. It's what you do with it, what you can use it for, what you apply it for. And there are certain things that AI cannot do as a human being. Human beings can be curious. Human beings can be courageous. Human beings can collaborate. Human beings have critical faculties. So these are the human beings can be compassionate and empathetic to others. So these are the traits that we need to emphasize in our learning outcomes. Not do you know this and do you know that and did you memorize this? Because all of that is already there. So one of the questions is, Grandee, from your presentation, you made a comment that short answers might be better than long answers. There's some people who take objection to that. Would you like to take it up now?
Yes, wait, which response? Sorry, I may have missed.
Okay, if I go to the Q&A, there's somebody who says it is a shame that students have to answer in short, tight response. Yeah, and use, achieve a target number of keywords.
Right. Well, I guess, my presentation is really focused on the overarching competition is not proctored. So it's kind of take-home assessment. I feel that, in the individual exam, we can open up, it can be essay, it can be anything. No problem with that. My main concern is, okay, now we give students a set of assessment to take home. So if we let them read essay, my point is that comparing writing an essay to answering MCQ with the access to ChaptGPT is the same, right? Because they can produce, the machine can produce 1,000 words as easily as produce one word. So that's my point.
Shouldn't it be that the student uses ChaptGPT and then uses it only as a first draft to rewrite it into his own paraphrasing? I know what you will say is that even ChaptGPT can do the paraphrasing for you. But isn't that the idea, that we teach them how to use it, but they have to declare that these sources are from ChaptGPT and that I have validated and cross-referenced it and verified the facts and so on and so forth? Isn't that how AI should be used in education?
Well, absolutely, I agree with you. But this is really on the honor system.
Yeah. Well, what about the use of Turnitin? I suppose Turnitin now has a plug-in to detect AI-generated language, right?
Right, yes. I mean,
So is it
30
effective? Is it effective?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. Right now in our school, we do use Turnitin as a preliminary check. So over a certain percentage, we will then require a human eye to eyeball the whole response. Yeah, it is a good, convenient way to do that. Yeah.
Okay. There's somebody who has said that she doesn't trust submitted assignments anymore, that she prefers written hands-on exam. Is that the way to go? I mean, it doesn't seem like when they go out to work, that's not going to happen, right?
Right. So I guess my point is that we can design questions such a way that we limit ChaptGPT's involvement, I mean large language models involvement to a certain extent and let the human faculty shine. We can do that. That's my point. We can design question in a creative way. But as of now, given the old set of questions, I also don't trust.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I certainly share that
It's
sentiment.
going to take a lot of training, I think, for staff.
Right.
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 Okay. Agus, you mentioned, and I think one of the things that you mentioned is the bias, cultural bias. As long as
Yes.
we are using tools that are designed and generated in the West, like ChatGPT and Copilot and others, we are going to have this constantly have to battle with a cultural bias. Are you suggesting that each society has to develop its own LLM?
Actually, well, with the current condition, I don't think its society or its culture have to develop their own basic LLM. Although you can, well, actually in ChatGPT there are ChatGPT version 2, which is open source, and you can improve it based on your maybe local training data. But I want to suggest over here, I want to highlight that it's important not only to propose a question from to the ChatGPT, if that's good, give the answer, but try to reflect the answer, whether what it makes the answer correct is when we know that when we read and then we understand. That's why the difference between student and teacher, teacher sometimes well, teacher give the question to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT get the same answer as the student, but the student maybe couldn't identify whether, oh, this one is, there is a missing aspect in here, while teacher with their experience, they can identify. I think that's more relevant. So in case you don't have any resource yet to build your own large language model or adaptive localized large language model, you can use the ChatGPT, but try to consider with revalidate the answer.
If I can just chime in here, Dr. Prasad.
Sure.
I think
sure.
another sort of solution can be that schools or organizations have a version, instead of designing their own LLM, which is a big project in itself, is to create assistants within their portal that is defined by their own sort of fencing, so that students are able to use, but will not get answers or will get answers that are based on local sort of perspective.
Yes. So making it customized to the school and to the curriculum and to the regulations that they come under.
Yeah.
So yes, that is an option. But you know, students have access to all the AI tools because it's freely available now. Nobody has to pay for these things. There is a question from Prof. Krishna, who says, you know, at some point you could generate your own research thesis, and supervisors may not know how much was it done by the student and how much was it done by AI. I don't know how to answer this question. I suppose if a thesis could be generated by ChatGPT, then it is not a thesis at all. It is not a subject of research at all. Grandee and Agus, would you have a reaction to that?
Maybe I can go first.
Yes.
So if this is referring to a PhD, I don't know if it's just thesis, that one piece of work. I'm not sure how to kind of tackle that. But if we're talking about the whole PhD journey, then I feel, you know, the supervisor should have known me.
Yeah, this is going to be a major problem along the way. Yeah, Agus?
Yes, actually, yes. If we talk about the thesis in terms of PhD, well, the book can be generated, but the essential, the philosophy of your understanding, normally your supervisor will not believe you 100% when you give him the book or her the book ready. They will ask you about your understanding, etc. As well, there is a presentation and there is a test. That's why there is a exam, oral exam for the progress normally in thesis to make sure that you are not only writing a report, but you are understanding and able to elaborate given maybe the specific question from the interviewer.
Let me ask a simple question. At what level do you think that we should start introducing AI into the curriculum? At what level? Primary, upper primary, junior or secondary or post-secondary? When would it be appropriate?
Maybe let me just share a simple thought. I mean, I'm no expert in this, but I feel that the access to this any form of AI is so easy nowadays. So even if we don't introduce it, and I mean, they will get to know it once they have access to a handphone.
Right.
So my current take would be, well, whenever they have access to handphone as early as possible. So maybe even before that, some preemptive or introductory lessons on how, about general AI literacy. Yeah, so I believe that in Singapore, we do have such course in primary schools. Yeah.
Especially with like text to speech, students don't actually have to type out. So it can be as young as maybe 1 or even younger than that, where they can interact and speak to the AI, and the AI can respond.
Well, they're already using Google and Siri and voice to generate, answers and music and all kinds of things. Kids are doing this at a very, very young age. So the point is that you cannot avoid AI, and you cannot shy away and close one's mind to the fact that AI is going to impact education. So really, there are two parallel streams here. One is, how can students learn about AI and how to use AI in a proper way, in a rightful way, in an ethical way? And the second half of the question is, how can teachers and how can educational systems incorporate AI into their teaching and pedagogy and assessment in a way that is correct? In other words, in a way that doesn't end up making things worse, but actually makes things better. And this is what we have been trying to address in our discussion so far. So shall we take just one or two other questions here? Let me just scroll through. There was a question earlier from the panel. Is there was a question about what kind of frameworks already exist within institutions for using AI. And I think most responsible institutions, universities, for example, if you go to their websites, you will find the guidelines and the framework already there. What can faculty do? What can teachers do? What can students do? How they should declare their use of AI in their answers and so on. So, for example, if you go to smu.edu.sg, the Singapore Management University has very appropriate frameworks in place. And I would say the same about NUS or NTU and perhaps even ITS. Agus, would you have frameworks in place already at the university level or at the school level?
Framework that applied for
For the
applying
correct
AI.
use of AI by teachers, faculty?
In general, there is no defined yet in my university, but in informatics, of course, in informatics, there are two approaches, whether the course or framework that for using or applying AI, and the course for developing AI. Maybe this case is more like applying AI.
Yeah.
But it's not limited in education or in pedagogy aspect, as well as in industrial.
I would encourage people to go trawl through the university websites in Singapore. SUSS, Grandee, I'm sure that SUSS management has thought about this and put it up on how faculty can use it, how not to use it, and also guidance for students. Am I right that they have to declare when they use and what they use?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are regulations available. And I'm sure that if students have been found to plagiarize or to use AI in unethical ways, there are penalties which will await them. But at the end of the day, it depends on us educators and teachers and faculty members to be able to move ahead of them, move ahead of the students, and to plan our teaching and plan our assessments in such a way that we can ensure that we are not testing memorization or recall, but we are testing how students can analyze and express themselves and be able to detect the difference between an AI generated answer and a solely generated answer. So at the end of the day, it boils down to us. We cannot blame anything on students or blame anything on regulators or management or whatever. It's the responsibility of educators to come up to speed on this. So I want to thank our three speakers, Dr. Grandee Lee, Mr. Rudy Hakeem, and Dr. Agus from Surabaya for joining us this afternoon. And I will hand over now to Vignesh Naidu to close the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Varaprasad. Thank you very much to our three speakers for a very enlightening, thought-provoking, and certainly meaningful conversation. I think it has been a great opportunity for us to learn more and for us to think deeper of what it means to bring artificial intelligence into classrooms, into schools, into universities. What does that mean? What is the impact it's going to have on our lives? Ladies and gentlemen, for us at the Head Foundation to continue putting events such as this evening's program together, we really need your feedback, your input, and giving us some direction. So if you could, please scan the link that's being displayed on the screen right now. We have also dropped the link in the dialogue box, in the chat box. So please do give us your feedback. Let us know how we can improve, what we can do better. What are the topics you would like us to explore in future dialogues? On the 10th of May, we are very fortunate to have a visiting professor from Mayo Clinic in America, Dr. Yin, who'll be talking about the science and strategies for managing muscle pain. It sounds like we're moving from artificial intelligence to muscle pain. But these are two areas that the Head Foundation is very keen on, both education and healthcare. And so our next THF dialogue will focus on some of our healthcare work. So do join us. Look at the registration link is available both in the chat and on the QR code. So do join us if you're available on the 10th of May. But if not, ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again in thanking all our speakers and our moderator for a very engaging session this evening. It has been a pleasure to host all of you on this, the Head Foundation Dialogue in partnership with the Singapore Education Consulting Group. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a pleasant day. Goodbye.